Kenny Snake Stabler was not just any ordinary NFL player. He was an icon beloved by teammates and fans alike. With his electrifying on-field presence and fearless play style, Stabler captured the hearts of many during his time with the Oakland Raiders. However, the end of his career was so sad and nothing compared to his heydays. What actually happened? Stay tuned to find out. The exit of a legend. From his NFL MVP win in 1974 to his multiple Pro Bowl selections, Stabler's achievements on the field were undeniable. But it was his charisma and magnetic personality that truly set him apart and earned him a special place in the hearts of Raider Nation. A day after the passing of legendary Raiders quarterback Ken Stabler, the football world remained in shock. This sentiment extended even to those close to Stabler, including his former head coach and friend John Madden, who spoke about the quarterback during a conference call on Friday. Madden described the day as very sad and admitted that Stabler's death came as a shock to everyone. He explained that Stabler was the type of person who seemed to handle anything life threw at him, making the news of his death feel like a kick in the gut. Madden further revealed that not only did most of Stabler's former teammates and coaches not know he was in stage 4 of colon cancer, but many were unaware he had cancer at all. When asked if he knew about Stabler's illness, Madden admitted he hadn't. He explained that Stabler was known for keeping such matters private. Madden recalled that during Stabler's playing days, he refused to visit the training room in front of his teammates, preferring to receive treatment late at night after everyone had left. Madden believed this habit of maintaining privacy likely continued throughout Stabler's life. Stabler, aside from fighting cancer, was also found to have stage 3 chronic traumatic encephalopathy, CTE, during an autopsy, a brain disease that deteriorates due to frequent head injuries. Following his passing at the age of 69 on July 10th, Stabler's brain and spinal cord were gifted to Boston University's Chronic Traumatic Encephalopathy Center in order to aid in the investigation of degenerative brain illness in athletes. CTE, which is thought to be triggered by repetitive head injuries, can only be confirmed after death through an analysis of brain tissue. In addition to displaying physical indications of the countless hits he sustained to his knees and back during his career, the father of 3 daughters also exhibited signs of cognitive decline and battled with headaches as he reached his 60s. Along with the severe headaches, Stabler experienced episodes of disorientation and forgetfulness, even repeating stories. Stabler broke new ground as the first well-known quarterback to be both diagnosed with CTE and to have passed away. Quarterbacks usually don't experience as many head impacts as the rest of the team, but Stabler was an exception due to his unique style of play. His skills in evading tackles and thinking quickly on his feet brought a new level of innovation to the quarterback position. He spent 28 years participating in the sport. His journey in the NFL commenced when he was just a child. With such an extensive career in the league, it's not unexpected that he could have acquired this illness. In order to contribute to the research on CTE, he generously gave his brain for study. Another mysterious part of his career was his feud with A.I. Davis. Ken Stabler and A.I. Davis, complicated relationship. Kenny Stabler and Al Davis were known to have a complicated relationship during their time together with the Oakland Raiders. Their quarterback-owner partnership was both highly successful and deeply contentious. On the field, they achieved incredible results, including 5 straight AFC Championship game appearances and a Super Bowl title. Under Stabler's leadership as the starting quarterback, the Raiders never had a losing season in his 7 years in that role. However, their personal relationship was fraught with tension, marked by trade demands, public criticism, and lingering animosity. The strained dynamic between them was evident in a 1979 Sport magazine interview where Stabler expressed his frustration with Davis. He said that he wanted to bury the hatchet, then sarcastically added, right between Al Davis's shoulder blades. This pointed comment highlighted the depth of their conflict, even while Stabler was still playing for the team. According to reports, Stabler openly admitted that he wouldn't speak to Davis even if they were in the same room, illustrating the frosty nature of their relationship. Davis had drafted Stabler out of Alabama in the second round of the 1968 NFL Draft, believing in his potential as a quarterback. However, Stabler's early years with the Raiders were challenging. A knee injury sidelined him for his entire rookie season, and in 1969 he walked out on the team during training camp due to personal issues and ongoing knee problems. Stabler did not play that season, but he returned to the team in 1970. From the start, he impressed the coaching staff with his talent and determination. Despite his promise, Stabler spent several years as a backup. He was behind starting quarterback Darryl LaMonica, who was nicknamed the Mad Bomber for his strong-arm style of play, and veteran George Blanda. Stabler reportedly asked to be traded multiple times during this period, as he wanted the opportunity to lead a team. It wasn't until 4 games into the 1973 season that Stabler finally became the Raiders' starting quarterback, following head coach John Madden's persistent arguments with Davis about giving Stabler a chance. Once Stabler secured the starting role, he proved his value. His precise passing style, which was more focused on accuracy than power, suited the evolving zone defenses of the 1970s. In his first year as a starter, Stabler led the NFL in completion percentage, helping the Raiders to land a spot in the conference championship game. Between 1973 and 1977, he earned numerous accolades, including an MVP award, 2 AFC Player of the Year honors, a first-team All-Pro selection, and 4 Pro Bowl appearances. However, the relationship between Stabler and Davis began to deteriorate during the 1978 season. After the Raiders won the Super Bowl in 1976 and reached the AFC Championship game in 1977, expectations were high. But in 1978, the team struggled, finishing with a 9-7 record and missing the playoffs for the first time since 1971. Stabler's performance declined as he battled injuries and threw 30 interceptions. Frustrated, he refused to speak to the media for much of the season. The Raiders' struggles were attributed to several factors, including an aging roster and a lack of draft picks to rebuild the team. Stabler's personal life also became a target for criticism. Known for his partying lifestyle, Stabler faced increased scrutiny when the team's success waned. While his off-field behavior had been overlooked during the Raiders' winning seasons, it became a focal point for critics when they missed the playoffs. Davis, instead of publicly defending Stabler, added to the criticism. In a 1978 Sports Illustrated article, he reportedly placed the blame on Stabler, saying, "If you've got to find someone to blame, then blame Stabler. He makes the most money, and he's paid to take that kind of pressure." Stabler, in turn, became more vocal about his disdain for Davis. Once he resumed speaking to the media after the season, much of his commentary focused on his dissatisfaction with the owner and his desire to leave the team. He sarcastically referred to Davis as the genius and said he had no respect for him. The tension between the two also affected others within the organization. Madden, who had long supported Stabler, resigned after the 1978 season. Stabler later stated that the pressure of working for Davis had taken a toll on Madden, describing the situation as overwhelming. Meanwhile, Davis expressed disappointment in Stabler, telling Sports Illustrated in August 1979 that he found Stabler's behavior frustrating. He noted that Stabler had gone through similar issues with his college coach, Bear Bryant, but eventually reconciled. Davis believed the same might happen between them someday, but at that moment his primary concern was how Stabler performed on the field. "Our only legacy is whether we win or lose," Davis remarked, emphasizing his focus on results rather than personal differences. Despite the strained relationship, Stabler returned to the Raiders for the 1979 season, though not without drama. He arrived a week late to training camp, showing up at 11 p.m. in a brand new Porsche he had purchased the day before. On the field, Stabler delivered a strong statistical season, throwing for a career-high 3,615 yards and 26 touchdowns. However, the team's overall performance was disappointing once again, and the Raiders finished with another failure, missing the playoffs for the second consecutive year. After the 1979 season, Davis decided it was time for a change. In a rare one-for-one quarterback trade, he sent Stabler to the Houston Oilers in exchange for Dan Pastorini. This move marked the end of Stabler's time in Oakland and was a clear indication that the relationship between the quarterback and owner had reached its breaking point. Not long after the trade, Stabler's off-field activities once again became a topic of controversy. In 1980, the New York Times published a front-page story linking Stabler to a gambler with ties to a New Jersey-based crime family. While Stabler was ultimately cleared of any wrongdoing by the NFL, he was warned to avoid associating with undesirable elements. Many believe that Davis had leaked the story to the media, further fueling speculation about the depths of their animosity. At the time, Davis was also engaged in a contentious legal battle with the NFL over his efforts to move the Raiders to Los Angeles, adding another layer of intrigue to the situation. For nearly 3 decades, the rift between Davis and Stabler remained unresolved. Their once strong partnership had devolved into bitterness and public disputes. Yet in 2009, something unexpected happened. The two men reconciled. Stabler visited Davis in his office, and the two finally made peace. This meeting marked the end of a long and complicated chapter in their lives, bringing closure to a relationship that had been both professionally fruitful and personally challenging. Looking back, the Stabler-Davis partnership was emblematic of the highs and lows of professional sports relationships. While they achieved remarkable success together, their clashing personalities and differing priorities often got in the way. Stabler's laid-back, free-spirited demeanor contrasted sharply with Davis's intense, controlling approach, creating a dynamic that was both explosive and effective. Though their journey was filled with conflict, their eventual reconciliation served as a reminder that even the most difficult relationships can find resolution over time. In the end, Stabler and Davis left a lasting legacy in NFL history. Their contributions to the Raiders' success during the 1970s remain a source of pride for fans, and their story continues to be a compelling example of the complexities of human relationships in the high-pressure world of professional sports. The clash between the NFL and Stabler's family. Ken Stabler suffered from a brain disease called chronic traumatic encephalopathy, CTE, and Alzheimer's disease before he passed away. Despite this, his family did not receive any money from the NFL's class action concussion settlement. The NFL and its lawyers did not deny that Stabler had these conditions. However, the settlement process turned out to be very complicated, and many former players and their families faced difficulties getting the compensation they deserved. Stabler's diagnosis of CTE came in February 2016, 7 months after he passed away at the age of 69. He had died from complications of colon cancer. The NFL settlement was created to help families in situations like his, but Stabler's claim was rejected 3 times. 2 denials came during the settlement's claims and appeals process, and the final decision was made by the federal judge overseeing the case. Sheila Dingus, who runs a nonprofit group called Advocacy for Fairness in Sports, discovered the details of Stabler's case in court documents. Kim Bush, who had been Stabler's partner for the last 16 years of his life, expressed her sadness and frustration about the situation. She said they could now close the book, even though it meant accepting that everyone who could have helped him had failed to do so. Bush believed it was time to let Stabler rest in peace, move on, and put the painful experience behind them. Stabler had joined the lawsuit against the NFL years before the settlement was finalized. He wanted to support the other players and the cause by lending his name to the case. Thousands of former players, many of whom were less famous than Stabler, also joined the lawsuit. They sought compensation for the harm they suffered due to the NFL ignoring the dangers of repeated head injuries. Eventually, the NFL agreed to a large settlement, but the process of filing claims became very difficult for the players and their families. According to Bush and Stabler's eldest daughter, Kendra Stabler Moyes, Stabler showed clear signs of mental decline in the later years of his life. He would frequently repeat himself, get lost even in places he knew well, and have trouble with simple things like navigating intersections with 4-way stop signs. He became very sensitive to noises. Things like music during long car rides or the sound of dishes and pots clanging in the kitchen upset him. Bush said he often experienced terrible headaches that made him suffer a lot. She recalled how she could see the pain in his blue eyes. Sometimes he would lean his head back on his recliner and bang it against the chair repeatedly, saying, "It never stops." Stabler clenched his teeth so hard that he broke a dental bridge in his mouth. Bush also shared how hard it was for Stabler to get out of bed each morning. He had to carefully plant his feet in a certain way to avoid sharp pain in his knees, which were badly damaged from his football career. Even though Stabler's case seemed to match what the settlement was meant to cover, his claim faced a major problem. The settlement rules stated that only players who died with CTE between July 7th, 2014 and April 22nd, 2015 were eligible for compensation. Stabler passed away on July 8th, 2015, which was just 3 months after this time period ended. Because of this rule, Stabler's lawyers did not file a claim based on death with CTE. Instead, they focused on the Alzheimer's diagnosis he received after his death. The team at Boston University who studied Stabler's brain found signs of both CTE and Alzheimer's. They described his CTE as moderately severe and noted that he had a history of memory loss and cognitive decline. The family's lawyers argued that his condition should qualify for compensation. The claims administrator, however, denied the claim, saying that the settlement required an Alzheimer's diagnosis to be made while the player was still alive. Stabler's lawyers appealed this decision, explaining that he had been diagnosed with colon cancer in early 2015, which had prevented him from seeing a neurologist about his brain problems. They said he was too focused on fighting cancer to address his other health issues. The NFL's lawyers responded by arguing against this. They pointed out that Stabler had visited a dentist in June 2015 to fix his broken teeth. They claimed that if he could see a dentist, he could have also seen a neurologist. However, Bush explained that the dental visit was only to repair the teeth he broke from clenching his jaw due to severe headaches. Judge Brody, the federal judge in charge of the settlement, agreed with the NFL's arguments and denied the appeal. This decision meant that Stabler's family would not receive any money from the settlement. Judge Brody has been criticized by many players and their families for how she has handled the settlement. Although she described the settlement as a success, hundreds of claims have been denied, delayed, or stuck in a review process. Players' lawyers have expressed frustration with how difficult it has been to get compensation for those who are sick or have passed away. In one controversial decision, Judge Brody approved new rules that made it even harder for players to qualify for payments. Bush, however, remains a fan of football despite all that happened. She said she loves the game even though she knows about the harm it caused Stabler and others like him. She described how unfair it was that Stabler did not receive any compensation for the suffering he endured. Bush felt that the NFL was built on the hard work and sacrifices of players like Stabler, who helped make the league successful. She said there was clear evidence of what Stabler went through because of the game, and it felt like a slap in the face that he was denied compensation. Bush believed that the decision disrespected Stabler's memory and contributions to football. She also felt it was unfair to all the players who had given so much to the sport. While she continues to love football, she remains deeply disappointed by how the NFL and the legal system treated Stabler and his family. However, we can't talk about Stabler and not talk about his career. How his career kicked off. Stabler rose to fame as a standout football player during his time at Foley High School in Foley, Alabama. He achieved an impressive win-loss record during his high school football career, with his only defeat coming from Vigor High School. Beyond football, he displayed his athletic prowess by averaging 29 points per game in basketball and receiving minor league contract offers from the Houston Astros and New York Yankees for his skills as a left-handed pitcher in baseball. His exceptional abilities on the field earned him the title of an All-American athlete. His coach dubbed him Snake due to a remarkable touchdown run he executed during his high school tenure. Stabler was brought in by head coach Bear Bryant at the University of Alabama in Tuscaloosa. At that time, freshmen were not allowed to play on the varsity team in the university division as per NCAA rules. In 1964, Stabler was part of the freshman team when the Crimson Tide clinched the national championship with quarterbacks Joe Namath and Steve Sloan. Although Alabama was crowned national champions, they suffered a defeat in their bowl game against the Texas Longhorns in the 1965 Orange Bowl. During his second year at college, Stabler served as a reserve quarterback behind Sloan after Namath left for the AFL. In that same year, the Crimson Tide secured their second back-to-back national championship. In his third year of college, he became the team's main quarterback. Under his leadership, the team had a perfect season and defeated Nebraska in the Sugar Bowl. There were high hopes for Stabler's final year, but they were not fully realized. The offense had difficulties, and the defense did not perform as well in 1967. Stabler was removed from the team by Bryant for skipping class and attending parties, but he was later allowed to rejoin. Stabler was chosen by the Oakland Raiders, the AFL champions at the time, in the second round of the 1968 NFL Draft. He was the fifth quarterback picked, coming after Greg Landry, Eldridge Dickey, Gary Beeben, who won the Heisman Trophy, and Mike Livingston. In addition to being selected by the Raiders, he was also drafted by the New York Yankees, the New York Mets, and the Houston Astros to play baseball. In March 1968, Stabler inked a 2-year deal with the Raiders. Soon after he was sent to Spokane, Washington to play for the Spokane Shockers, he participated in a couple of games for the Shockers before being called back by the Raiders in late November. Stabler departed from the Raiders in July 1969, but mentioned in November that he would be returning to pro football the following June. Reports indicated that Stabler and Raiders head coach John Madden had come to an agreement for Stabler to join the team for training camp in July. Stabler made his first appearance in a regular season game for the Raiders in 1970. He gained attention in the NFL during a playoff match in 1972 against the Pittsburgh Steelers after scoring a crucial touchdown late in the game. Unfortunately, the Steelers managed to secure a victory with a controversial pass from Terry Bradshaw to Franco Harris, which became known as the Immaculate Reception in football history. The effect of his career. After suffering serious knee injuries, Stabler transformed from a mobile quarterback to a traditional pocket passer, renowned for his precise throws and knack for leading clutch late-game comebacks, then capitalizing on their deep passing attack. Despite not having a particularly strong arm, Stabler excelled at throwing deep to branch and hitting Belenikoff and Casper on shorter routes. Serving as Oakland's starting quarterback, he was named AFC Player of the Year in 1974 and 1976 and led the NFL in passing in 1976. In January 1977, he steered the Raiders to their first Super Bowl triumph, defeating the Minnesota Vikings 32-14 at the Rose Bowl. In 1976, Stabler received the Hickok Belt, recognizing him as the best professional athlete of the year. During the 1977 AFC playoffs against the Baltimore Colts on Christmas Eve, Stabler made a memorable pass to Casper in the fourth quarter, leading to a game-tying field goal by Errol Mann. This play, known as the Ghost to the Post, resulted in the game going into double overtime, which the Raiders visiting team won 37-31 when Stabler threw a 10-yard touchdown pass to Casper. In the second game of 1978 on September 10th, the Holy Roller, Immaculate Deception game occurred, where Oakland secured a victory in San Diego after a fumble by Stabler in the fourth quarter was recovered by two other players who went on to score a touchdown and clinch the win. This event led to the implementation of the Ken Stabler rule in 1979, which allowed only the player who fumbled the ball to recover it during a fourth down play or any play taking place after the 2-minute warning in a half or overtime period. Following disappointing seasons in 1978 and 1979, during which the Raiders did not make the playoffs and many key players from their Super Bowl team departed, including Clarence Davis, Skip Thomas, George Atkinson, Fred Biletnikoff, Willie Brown, and head coach John Madden, Stabler was traded to the Oilers in March 1980 for Dan Pastorini. At the time of his departure, Stabler held records for most completions, passing yards, and touchdown passes in Raiders history. The Oilers believed Stabler could be the missing piece to help them surpass the Steelers and reach the Super Bowl. The offensive talent in Houston did not compare to what Stabler had in Oakland, with only Earl Campbell and Casper, who was acquired in a trade from the Raiders, being notable weapons. After Pastorini was replaced by Jim Plunkett in Oakland due to injury, Plunkett led the Raiders to a Super Bowl victory, including a playoff win over the Oilers. Head coach Bum Phillips was fired after the season, and Ed Biles took over as the new head coach. In 1981, Stabler decided not to attend training camp due to the absence of the well-liked head coach who had brought life back to the struggling Houston team. Instead, he announced his retirement through his agent on July 23rd. However, after 5 weeks, and with the starting quarterback Gifford Nielsen getting injured, he changed his mind and rejoined the Oilers in late August by signing a 2-year deal. Despite his comeback, he had a lackluster season as Houston finished with a 7-9 record and did not make it to the playoffs. The Oilers let go of Stabler at the end of the season, and he reunited with Phillips in New Orleans by late August. Dave Wilson's season came to an end due to a knee injury on August 12th. In September, the Saints made a trade, exchanging longtime starting quarterback Archie Manning for offensive tackle Leon Gray. Stabler, at 37 years old, was considered past his prime, and the Saints were struggling as a franchise. The first year with the Saints was disrupted by a 2-month players' strike, which resulted in narrowly missing the playoffs. Stabler's most successful season with the Saints was in 1983, where he started. Despite their efforts, the Saints fell short in the final game against the Los Angeles Rams, missing out on the playoffs. Following this, the Saints brought in Richard Todd from the New York Jets before the 1984 season, and Stabler decided to retire in late October of that season. The legacy of Ken Stabler. Stabler set a record for being the quickest starting quarterback to reach 100 wins. achieving this milestone in just 150 games, beating out Johnny Unitas's previous record of 153 games. Following him, only Terry Bradshaw accomplished this in 147 games, Joe Montana in 139 games, and Tom Brady in 131 games. Additionally, Stabler was the first NFL quarterback to finish his career with an average of at least 200 passing yards per game in the playoffs, given that he made at least 10 playoff appearances. Stabler, along with other NFL stars, made a decision in early 1974 to join the newly established World Football League. He enthusiastically signed a contract to play for the Birmingham Americans. Stabler expressed his happiness, citing the opportunity to play for a prestigious organization and the financial rewards as motivating factors. However, the most significant aspect for him was the chance to return home and play for the people in the South, which he considered vital. He stated his determination to be in Birmingham within 2 years, even if it meant hitchhiking. Stabler expressed his ambition to have a similar impact on the WFL as Joe Namath did on the AFL, feeling that it would be a significant achievement. Despite the possibility of receiving a similar salary from Oakland as Birmingham, he emphasized that playing in the South was the deciding factor for him. Unfortunately, the WFL disbanded during the 1975 season, leading Stabler to continue his football career in the NFL without ever participating in the WFL. Football Nation ranks Stabler as the 27th best quarterback in the post-merger era. In 2014, Stabler was honored by the Professional Football Researchers Association when he was inducted into the PFRA Hall of Very Good. During the 2016 NFL Honors event, it was revealed that Stabler had been chosen to be included in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and he was formally admitted on August 6, 2016. Ken Stabler was buried at Pine Rest Cemetery in Foley, Alabama, after a private ceremony on July 10, 2015. The cemetery's tranquil atmosphere mirrors Stabler's life away from the public eye. Maureen, along with their children, attended the event to pay tribute to the football legend, who made a lasting impact on the sport. Stabler's burial site reflects his peaceful nature, providing a serene setting to remember his rich and fulfilling life. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.